And we are live with another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside, as always, by my co-hosts, Andrew Johnson and Johnson. We are just about, give or take, what's the math, 26 hours away from tip-off, from the opening tip of this year's upcoming NBA season. And for 30 teams, they're looking to win a championship. Of course, for one team, they are looking to go back-to-back. The other 29 are looking to make sure that that team does not go back to back, team being the Oklahoma City Thunder. But if it's been a little bit of time, Johnson, since we've talked about the NBA, and now we're going to break it down here tonight, talk about some of the offseason moves that have happened for certain teams, our picks to make the playoffs, our pick to win MVP, to make the NBA Finals, and then a little bit of a spin from last year, what we did last year. Last year, we had a potential surprise in the NBA. Let's go into our bold takes later on for this upcoming NBA season, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am too. 20, like you said, 26 hours now. We will have NBA basketball. Our New York Knicks are not going to play on opening night for whatever reason. Maybe we're not marketable enough. Who knows? Struggles of a small market. I guess everyone else understands that.
Small market. Okay.
Hey, listen, with the way the refs treat us, it's definitely a struggle of a small market. But anyways, I'm not going to be this mad 90 seconds into the show. Let's just go.
I can't be mad because the NFL the football has already made me mad enough. I'll get into that a little bit later this week. I need basketball to be a lot better because I am furious with football at this point right now. So I need basketball.
Speaking of football,
I need the Knicks.
Speaking of football, the New York Knicks have a chance to get their first win of the season before the Jets. That is a real stat.
That's a crazy stat, but it is the truth. That is a real stat. So, Johnson, what we're going to do is let's go into some of some of these teams and what they've done in the offseason, some of the bigger headlines from this past NBA offseason. We talked about in a little bit of depth, the Kevin Durant trade with the Houston Rockets, that obviously being a monster trade going down during the NBA offseason. There was a lot more trades that went down during the offseason. Other than the Durant deal, was there something that really stood out to you in terms of trades before we go into some of the roster by roster breakdowns of what they've done in the offseason?
In terms of trades, there are a couple bigger trades. Maybe Dennis Schroeder going to the Kings at this point. That's something. I think the big trade though was Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis both being offloaded by the Celtics. Porzingis going to the Hawks and Drew Holiday going to the Blazers now. So those were the two big trades that happened the day after the KD trade.
Yeah,
and it kind of got overshadowed.
One also trade that I'm looking into was the Norman Powell deal with the Miami Heat. Obviously, had a breakout season last year for the Clippers, and now he goes to Miami. John Collins goes to the Clippers, and the Jazz are just they're just tanking at this point. We all know that. But Johnson, what conference would you like to start to? The Eastern Conference, Western Conference, completely up.
Let's go for the defending conference champion or the defending champion conference.
NBA champ. Okay.
Yeah, let's go with the West over here.
Yeah, so let's talk about obviously the Oklahoma City Thunder are just an insane team. They really did not lose much in the offseason. They brought back Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on an extension. They re-signed Chet Holmgren to an extension. Jalen Williams both getting extensions as well. The Thunder are pretty much going to be rolling with the exact same team that they just had from last season. So a team that had an historic season already, Johnson, now is bringing back every single piece basically from that championship core. So it's going to be really tough to beat them this upcoming year.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because I don't see it that way. I see a lot of the Thunder did not get better this offseason, and a lot of other teams got a lot better this offseason.
That's fair.
Particularly, let's talk about who I think are going to be the winners of the Western Conference. Spoiler alert, the Houston Rockets. We need to talk about that starting five.
Well, yeah, of course, obviously, we just talked about Kevin Durant earlier and what that trade means for that franchise. But look at also what they did in the offseason, too, outside of Kevin Durant. They re-signed Steven Adams, who we saw had a big breakout in the postseason last year. It was big for that Rockets team. Jabari Smith got an extension. Fred VanVleet got an extension. Jason Tate, a new deal. And then they added Clint Capella. They brought him back to his original team. They also signed Dorian Finney-Smith, Josh Okogie to come off the bench. They did trade Dillon Brooks in the Kevin Durant trade, as well as Jalen Green. So those are two noteworthy players they did give up. But yeah, they are a completely, I wouldn't say a completely different roster from last year's team, but obviously getting Kevin Durant now in your starting five definitely gives you, at least in your mindset, if you're the Rockets, a lot more hope going into the season that you could upend those, Oklahoma City Thunder and maybe be the best team in the Western Conference itself.
I truly believe they are the team to beat in the NFL in the Western
NBA.
Conference here. I know football's still in the mind here.
Yeah.
When you take a look at their team, what the Houston, if this works for the Houston Rockets and the way the game's been going, if you were under 6'4", just play football.
Yeah.
I mean, listen to this starting lineup. The smallest guy they're gonna have on the court is gonna be Amen Thompson at 6'7". Everyone else is gonna be 6'11".
Yeah.
And so it's Kevin Durant. It's gonna be Steven Adams. It's gonna be I forget the power forward's name. Help me out here, Nick. You're gonna have Sengun there.
So you have Sengun, yeah, you have Jabari
Smith Jr.
Kevin
there.
Durant, yeah.
So all those guys are 6'11".
Yeah.
It's going to be absolutely crazy because, and listen, people are saying, okay, their shooting to be poor, but Amen Thompson's a capable 3-point shooter. Sengun's not bad for a big man, and KD's obviously the best, or one of the best 3-point shooters in the game. So the only real spacing issue you're going to have is Steven Adams. Everyone else on this team is capable of making open jumper. Are they all 45% 3-point shooters? No. Are they all 35% 3-point shooters or better? Yeah. So they're going to be absolutely fine in that case. But when you think about it, if you're Lou Dort, right? Now, Lou Dort is an amazing defensive player. He's an amazing player overall. He's 6'4", and that's an NBA listed 6'4", so he's probably close to 6'2". If he goes actually try to in the paint, he's going to become a campfire story. Yeah. That's going to be anyone trying to go. If this rock again, this is if everyone stays healthy, it's going to be urban legends that are going to be in the paint because between the height and the wingspans of all those guys, you're just in for a very, very bad time. You're going to need an excellent 3-point shooting team to beat the Rockets, which I don't think the Thunder are. So it's going to be all about matchups come the postseason. But let's keep on going. I don't want to kind of dwell on the Rockets for the entire episode here. I could spend the next 20 minutes talking about
I'm sure you could, yeah. And let's go into the team that I know you like to talk about, the Denver Nuggets. They also had a very interesting offseason as well. They did lose Russell Westbrook. They traded Michael Porter Jr., and they got rid of Dario Saric. That's probably why I said Mario. Then the additions, though, they did bring back Bruce Brown, who they know from years experience. Tim Hardaway Jr. they also brought in. They got Cam Johnson in that Michael Porter trade with the Nets. And then I think a very underrated move is them getting Jonas Valanciunas also. So I think what they've done is they're trying to revitalize that bench while also inserting Cam Johnson now into that starting five. And also bringing back, a veteran that's done great for them in Bruce Brown, while also adding another veteran in Tim Hardaway Jr. as well.
Yeah, these are great vets for a bench that was non-existent. That was Denver's main issue. They were just so gassed at the end of games, similar to the Knicks. So now, not to be so gassed at the end of games, you're going to have capable veterans on this team. Tim Hardaway Jr., obviously, which you mentioned. You have Cam Johnson, not a bad player over there. Bruce Brown, which has tremendous postseason success, as you've mentioned before. And it is kind of funny that he did leave the Nuggets to kind of get that bag, right?
Yeah,
he got the bag, and now he was on 2 other teams in that 2-year period, or 3 other teams in that small period. He wasn't really good there, and I was trying to kind of reignite his success he had with Denver. Kind of, kind of reminds me of, if this works, it's gonna be kind of like Lance Stevenson, who was really good with the Pacers, but whenever he went for anywhere else, he wasn't really that great. So could be like a Lance Stevenson type move.
Yeah, it's very possible. And looking at some other teams in the Western Conference, you have to talk about the Timberwolves. Realistically, not a big offseason in terms of offseason moves for them. Pretty much just bringing back guys that were very helpful for them last season in terms of making the playoffs and making a nice run into the postseason. You also look at teams that are like the Clippers, who I feel like, did make that big move in trading for John Collins. They got rid of, in the process, get rid of Norman Powell, but they do bring in also Bradley Beal. They bring in Brooke Lopez. They bring back Chris Paul, re-signing Batum, and of course James Harden. Didn't really lose too much, but of course, the biggest storyline every single year with the Clippers is their injury concerns. They have to stay healthy in order to make some kind of run.
Yeah, this is also the only team in the NBA which is shrinking. Kawhi went from like 6'7" to 6'6". Bradley Beal lost an inch, and it's because these guys are unfortunately on the wrong side of the age in the NBA. All these guys are in their mid to late 30s. Chris Paul being 40 plus years old. Chris Paul's own son is commenting on his Instagram post like just
Oh
calling him an
God.
unk at this point, and whether it's right or not, it is what's happening right now, and uh, it's going to be this is a very interesting team, and I have a bold prediction for this team later on. And I'm curious to see how this is going to work because all other super teams that have been, let's say, past their prime, to put it nicely, have never worked out.
And then you go to the other side of LA. You know, the Lakers had the big trade for Luka Doncic during the season last year. They re-signed him to an extension during the offseason. Their big additions, of course, were bringing DeAndre Ayton to hopefully, for their sake, get something at center because that's been a big problem for them the last couple of years. They also brought in Marcus Smart to be one of their backup point guards. They did lose Dorian Finney-Smith as we mentioned earlier on, but again, they're going to be waiting to see when LeBron James comes back from injury. He's going to miss the start of the season, so it's going to be pretty much the Luka show until LeBron comes back, and we'll see. I mean, the Lakers, they're obviously one of the bigger, brands in all of sports, and of course, are going to be a team to be talked about all season long. Them and the same thing, you could say the same thing for Golden State because Golden State also, one of the more marketable teams in the NBA. They had, and I would say, pretty much staying put off season. The only thing they really did outside of bringing back guys like Kaminga and Gary Payton and DeAnthony Melton, they did sign Al Horford to become one of their backup centers, or maybe even starting center, depending on how they go about it. They did lose Kevon Looney, but getting Horford, I think, is a nice, significant upgrade there. Um, I know you're really not a big fan of either team. You have any notes about those two teams?
Who do you want me to start with first?
Wherever you want to go.
Let's start with the Lakers. I mean, because this is the only real team I have notes about. And the only notes I'm going to add here is just the difficulty it is to make an NBA roster. Because when you take a look at the offseason, right? You recognize, or at least I recognize, a lot of guys in college basketball. R.J. Davis, Eric Dixon, Arthur Kaluma, guys that I've seen in person multiple times as a St. John's season ticket holder. A lot of Big East guys over here, and
Right.
they're getting waived. And I'm going to talk enough about the Big East player of the league, Big East player of the year, R.J. Lewis, who just got waived by the Celtics to get signed by their G League team. Uh, I really think we need an expansion here, but I'm not going to really talk about that right now, just to kind of see the amount of talent that this Lakers squad had waived before they got the right fit. LeBron James is going to miss his first ever opening day. 20 plus seasons played. He's never missed opening day, so it's the first time for everything here. I don't know
Yeah,
if you knew that, Nick, but
I did. Yeah.
yeah. So it shows the seriousness of this injury, and he's not going to retire at the end of this year unless it's career ending, because we all
Yeah.
know he would have announced that retirement tour. So LeBron fans, you can breathe easy for one more year.
And I think to round out the Western Conference before we make our picks for the Western Conference, you look at the rest of the teams in the conference. You know, the bottom half is obviously very ugly with teams like Utah and Portland. The Suns now are going to be, tanking and rebuilding, so they're going to be in a very long off season. And then you look at the teams that are vying for play-in spots that might be getting a lot better. We saw what happened with Dallas last season, of course, trading Luka, but you bring in Anthony Davis to pair up with Kyrie Irving once Irving returns from injury. Of course, getting Cooper Flag as the number one overall pick is going to be a big storyline for this team this season. You have teams like the Spurs, of course, as well, that also, depending on the health of Victor Wembanyama, should be a team that maybe contends for a postseason spot this year. Also, bringing back, De'Aaron Fox is a big help for you as well in that department. And other teams like Memphis and New Orleans and the Kings, it's like trying to pick a needle out of a haystack as to which one of these teams I think is going to be one of the last teams in the playoffs, in my opinion. Because New Orleans, I feel like we go through this every single season with them. We think that they're going to take the next step into being that postseason contender or being at least a playoff team. And then we saw what happened last year. Injuries were riddled with them. They were one of the worst teams in the league. They did have a nice lengthy offseason and bringing guys in like Sadiq Bey, Kevon Looney, Jordan Poole, re-signing Herb Jones, but they have to figure out exactly where they're going to try to go anywhere from here at this point with that roster. And then you look at a team like the Kings, who are pretty much Chicago Bulls 2.0 at this point with the moves that they've made the last couple of months of the season, getting guys like Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan to now pair up again, this time in Sacramento. And then to round out that conversation, it's Memphis, where they're always seem to be in a weird spot. I like them getting Ty Jerome, who had a nice breakout year with the Cavs last season. They did bring in Kentavious Caldwell Pope as well. But I'm curious, Johnson, do you have any, any thoughts on these teams entirely? Like, is there one team out of that, block of teams that you would like to talk about a little bit more before we make our picks?
Yeah, let's talk about San Antonio and let's talk about Memphis. And I'll start with Memphis. My epitaph of Memphis is that this is a self-inflicted wound. They did this to themselves. They had a perfectly fine head coach, and they decided to blow it up for no reason whatsoever. They were a really competitive team fighting for the 2 seed late last season, and they gave it all away because he allegedly gave up the locker room. But I mean, it is
Right.
what it is. And let's talk about San Antonio that has a lot of young talent, especially at the forward position. I mentioned each year they have Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Julian Champagny. They have Derek Harper now. So you have all these guys vying for forward spots, and there's not enough room. So one of these guys is the odd man out. And they can get, I think they're going to package 2 or 3 of them together to get a significant asset midseason. If they're 500 by the trade deadline, they're going to package a couple of these guys, maybe a draft pick or 2, and they're really going to try to compete.
And keep in mind that, with San Antonio, they've had the rookie of the year the last 2 years, Stephon Castle last year, Wembanyama the year before, and you had the number 2 pick in the draft last year, Dylan Harper, or this past draft, and Dylan Harper, who I'm curious. I don't know exactly what they're going to do with all these guards. I think you're right on that. They're going to probably make a move at some point to try to fully maximize this roster, to try to not waste the early years of Wembanyama. But it goes to the same thing. They need him to stay healthy, because it looked like at one point during the season they could have maybe sneaked in as a play-in team. Then he got hurt, and then it pretty much ended any hopes of that happening. So
But yeah,
with that being said, let's make our picks who we think are going to be the 10 teams in the West. Now, you don't have, you can go in any order you want. This is not based off of this pick, Johnson. It's not how you think the seeding is going to go in the Western Conference. I just want to know, who do you think are the 10 teams that are going to make the postseason this upcoming year for the
now
West?
how do you want me to do this? Do you want me to give you all my answers, or do you want to give me one and then I give one? I'll let you kind of run the show over here.
We can go back and forth, because I'm sure we're going to have a bunch of teams that we agree on.
So the obvious is OKC, right?
OKC, Rockets, Denver. I'm assuming we have all 3. That's an obvious.
Yeah, that's OKC, Rockets, and who else?
Denver.
Denver. Yeah, that's an obvious one.
Yeah. So I've assumed Lakers probably the same. The Clippers are probably the same.
Yep.
T Wolves, I'm assuming.
Yep. T Wolves are on my list. Yep.
Any other teams that you think? I think I have Mavericks.
I do have the Mavericks.
Okay. I have Spurs.
San Antonio's on my list as well. I don't think we have any disagreements yet, which is surprising.
I don't remember how many teams. Clippers, did I say already?
You said Clippers. Did you say Golden State?
I did.
I don't think you said Golden State.
I don't think I did, but I agree with Golden State, yeah.
So and I have
9 for 9?
9 for 9. I have Memphis as my last team.
That's the only difference. I have the Kings.
There we go. There's the difference.
I want to pick Memphis. I'm worried the injuries are going to play a factor. That's the only reason I'm not picking them.
I mean, the Kings' Russell Westbrook jersey is going to do generational numbers in the future.
I think that's I forgot to mention that when we talk about the Kings. That's a nice move for them. They're such a weird team, because like on paper they don't have the worst roster, but it's not one where I'm like, yeah, this is a top 5 team in the Western Conference. Like, it doesn't make me feel good about it. I think they could sneak in as like an 8 to 10 seed in the West, but nothing crazy other than that. I guess I pretty much think of it as a coin flip between them and Memphis for that last spot.
That's a fair analysis.
That's how I think it is.
I can agree with you for that.
I can't trust it. I picked the Pelicans last year, and I'm not doing it again. Until I see something different, I don't want to pick them again as a playoff team.
I think that's a fair analysis.
Yeah. So let's go into the Eastern Conference then. And do you want to start it with the Knicks, or do you want to go somewhere different?
Talk about Cleveland first, because I'll talk about the Knicks in a second.
Okay. Well, of course, the Cavaliers, Johnson, ended their season in pretty much horrific fashion. They had the best record in the East. I think everyone, including Cavs fans alone, were thinking that this was maybe like time for them to finally get over that hump. Kenny Atkinson did a great job his year one in Cleveland, and then a really bad series against the Pacers in that second round matchup to try to fix those mistakes. They brought in Lonzo Ball in the trade with Isaac Okoro with the Bulls. They brought in Larry Nance and Thomas Bryant for their bench. They lost Ty Jerome, as I mentioned earlier on, to Memphis. So on paper, this is a team that's still going to compete in the Eastern Conference. And with the way the East is currently set up, with the amount of injuries that we'll go into it a little bit later, the Cavaliers seem poised to be again a probably top seed in the Eastern Conference once again this year.
Yeah, it's a guaranteed top three seed, barring any absolute.
We might as well just say that that's one of our one of our teams for the East. Like, we'll just get that out of the way now.
Yeah, I can't imagine that Cleveland.
It would have to be catastrophic for them not to make it. Yeah. So do you want to go into the Knicks talk then?
Let's talk about the Knicks, and the Knicks have had a very good season. Let's talk about their offseason. They've done a fantastic job. They are focusing on the bench, which is for the first time in my life. Like, I feel like the Knicks are going to have a strong bench, which is a good thing.
Yep.
And I'm excited because that was the one critique they had with Thibs. Well, I mean, there were two main critiques with Thibs. One, doesn't play the bench enough, and when he played the bench, you saw it was terrible. People were clamoring for Pacom Dadier and Tyler Kolek, and Tyler Kolek could not, unfortunately, at least at an NBA level right now, run offense for kindergartners. So he's not just physically ready yet. He could be a guy that maybe at the end of this year, beginning of next year, could be a real contributor, but he's just not there. You had other guys like Deuce McBride that unfortunately could not step up during this postseason. You had, I don't want to say the injury bug, because you were healthy, you got beat fair and square. There's guys that were just too exhausted at the end of the games. Like Josh Hart was playing 40 minutes a game on average. You can't do that. He was exhausted at the end of every postseason game. That's when the Pacers would really start making their comeback against the Knicks, or that's when they would really extend the lead. So the Knicks now have a deep bench. They have Yershon Gabusele, or it's Yershon Gabusele.
Yabusele.
Right?
I got you.
Yabusele. Gotcha. Yeah, I'm going to keep on butchering it. They have Jordan Clarkson, former sixth man of the year. Really great addition. They almost had Malcolm Brogdon there for a minute. He was going to be there for all but 30 seconds. And Mike Brown is obviously the biggest addition here. And I was really kind of on the fence with Mike Brown. I like what Thibs did, but he was kind of stubborn, and it was proven that, hey, it's not going to really work out. So it kind of is what it is at this point. And when you take a look at this is a real stat, by the way, Nick. I don't think you've ever seen this.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to take a guess what the Knicks' 3-point defense was ranked the last two seasons, or let's just say the last season, out of 30 teams in the NBA, what do you think it was?
3-point defense?
Yeah. So the team that gives up the most looks.
Yeah, I feel like it's not good, because I feel like every single time we watch games, it would be a wide open three.
Yeah. And
28?
29.
Oh.
Mike Brown in Sacramento. What was he ranked his 2 years there?
I feel like you're setting me up for that. It's decent, so maybe 8?
6.
6.
So close. He was doing a great job over there in Sacramento.
San Francisco.
I almost said San Francisco. Having a difficult time tonight, Nick. But yeah, Mike Brown did a great job there. And you could see that he ran a lot of preseason games without even running a single play. And they looked fine out there. The question for the Knicks now is always going to be health. Is Mitchell Robinson going to remain healthy? And that's one of the main questions here, because he's had injury troubles in the past. He's going to be on limited minutes. He was named the opening night starter, but there are rumors now that he's not going to start due to those kind of health issues. But
yeah,
Nick, give me your take on the Knicks. How do you like the bench, how it looks right now? Because you have a legit 9-man rotation right now. Like in the playoffs, if you're playing these 9 guys, you feel good, because Jordan Clarkson, and you have Clarkson, Hart, Bridges, and Gershon Yabusele coming off the bench. So those are going to be your first four guys off the bench, and your starting five is going to be Brunson, Bridges, OG Ananobi, Carl Anthony Towns at the four, and then Mitch at the five. That's going to be your starting five.
Yeah, and then you have Josh Hart obviously coming off the bench,
Yep.
which is what we've been pretty much trying to clamor for years at this point. It's not that Josh Hart's not a bad player starting, but for a second unit, he'd be an amazing player to lead that
He's
second
probably the
unit.
most elite second unit player because he's a guy that, unfortunately, he's a little bit on the smaller size, and he's 6'4", so he's taller than probably 99% of the human population. Uh, but for an NBA player, that puts him in the bottom 50%. So if he was like 6'8", he'd be starting every night. Let's not kind of say okay, Josh Hart's
So
overrated. If he was this taller, he'd be starting every night. That's
my thoughts on the team. I like what they did I like what they did in this offseason. They really didn't lose too much. They brought in a lot, not a lot in terms of players, but they brought in a lot of talent in terms of what they got in Yabusele and Clarkson, because Yabusele showed that flash in Philadelphia the last year when Joel Embiid went out, and Clarkson, as you mentioned, is a former sixth man of the year. So even if it's not Josh Hart leading that second unit, Jordan Clarkson could certainly lead that second unit. That's for sure. So I like that mentality. I was a little bit hesitant, obviously, when Mike Brown was hired. I told you my stance on him. It's not that I don't like him. It's more of I thought, what he did in Sacramento his first year was great, or the first couple years was great, and then obviously it ended terribly. He got the Cavs to an NBA Finals, but realistically, it wasn't him getting to the finals. It was LeBron James. So I'm willing to, you know, be optimistic about Mike Brown in this tenure. If he can help improve that 3-point defense that you mentioned, that will go a
That's
long
the
way.
main key right here. Is
that
that
was
3-point defense?
Because look at how they lost to the Pacers, especially in game one of that series. The Pacers kept coming back in that game because of their 3-point shooting in the last 5 minutes of that game. So if they can fix that mentality and fix the 3-point shooting defense wise, then they should be once again in contention for not only top two teams in the Eastern Conference, but they should make it at least back to the Eastern Conference Finals once again. As I mentioned earlier on, with the way the Eastern Conference is currently set up with the amount of injuries, this feels like the make or break year for this team. It has to be this year.
I
And the
think they
same could be
have
said for
a.
Cleveland.
I think they have a 2-year window after this.
Yeah.
It won't be completely over, but it's gonna be close to.
Not saying championship, but I'm saying this feels like if for them in Cleveland, this is the year you have to make it to the finals. If you
the Knicks
don't make it to the
one
finals,
more year
catastrophic.
to kind of gel together. They have one more year after this. I
Right.
think that they're going to either peak this year or next year, so 2026, 2027. And then, they'll be in the playoffs in 2028 and 2029 with this current core, but they're not going to win a championship. You've got a 2-year window with the Knicks right now.
So we'll both agree on the Knicks. So that's an obvious. We were going to obviously put them in there. So with that being said, like I said, I'm optimistic. We'll see what happens with them this season. Let's go into the rest of these for us. I think you and I both agree the Magic. I think with the way that they're currently rostered and with the amount of injuries, as I keep mentioning, but the Magic have a nice, fun roster on paper too.
They do.
They added a Desmond Bain. That was a big trade that happened during the offseason. Tyus Jones as well coming off the bench. You re-signed Paulo Banchero and Mo Wagner. They only lost Cole Anthony, KCP, and Gary Harris to trades and free agency. So not a lot of talent they lost, but this feels like a team that if it's not the Knicks or the Cavs, in my opinion, this could be a sneaky team come postseason time. It's all going to depend on can they get over the hump in the playoffs, because we've seen what happened the last 2 years. They lost that game 7 a couple years back to Cleveland. They had no chance against the Celtics. So I feel like this is the time for Orlando with the injuries to both Boston and Indiana. If it's not going to be Indiana or Cleveland or New York, they could be a sneaky team to maybe keep an eye on come the playoffs in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, it's always kind of weird with the Eastern Conference because there's always a team that comes out of absolutely nowhere, and it could be the Magic this year. I wouldn't sleep on the Pistons either. That would be kind of my dark horse team right now. I really think that they could take the leap and easily win 52, 53 games this year. They were a very scary team last postseason. They have young developing talent.
Trying to spoil something for later, Johnson. What are we doing
Ah,
right
I'm
now?
sorry about that. But yeah, I
No,
don't
I'm
have
kidding.
much
I'm
to
kidding.
really add for the Magic. That they got a lot better and they bought in at the right time with their current
I
core.
think a team we could talk about in length maybe is Philadelphia, because last year, of course, was bad because of the amount of injuries, and this feels like it's another team that's in a make or break year because look what they did in the offseason. They they brought back Quentin Grimes, who was really good for them for a portion of that season last year. You bring back Gordon and Lowry, the two veterans. You re-sign Justin Edwards. You add Trendon Watford, and of course they had the number 3 pick in the draft, which was
Yeah,
VJ
VJ
Edgecombe
Edgecombe.
from Baylor,
Yeah,
who you and I are both big fans of. I think you and I both like what
yeah,
he
great
can
talent.
potentially bring to the game. So I'm curious where this team goes. They obviously will have to monitor Embiid's health as well as Paul George. And, Jared McCain was looking good up until he got hurt. And you have Tyrese Maxey. This is a talented roster on paper. It all comes down to can they stay healthy enough? Because if they stay healthy enough, this could be the team maybe that comes out of the Eastern Conference and makes it to the finals.
I Sixers. I heavily disagree. I think they're
I
cooked.
don't think it will
I
happen
think
because of the injuries.
Paul George is too far gone, and Embiid's health is declining as well. Embiid has now missed more games than he's played in his entire NBA career.
Yeah,
I think it's time to put a fork in him for this season because they're cooked. However, going in the future, they have a very, very talented young core. They have
right.
Maxi. You mentioned they have Quentin Grimes. As painful as that be for me to say that. Um, they're going to have Jared McCain. They're
Yeah.
going to have VJ Edgecombe, like you said. So they got 4 guys like guard, and I guess Grimes can kind of play small forward. Really talented. And they're going to have to make some tough decisions in the next year or two to what they're going to do because you can't start 4 guards in the NBA if you want to be a serious franchise.
Right. And yeah, it all comes down to health at the end of the day. It's easier said than done for a team trying to get healthy and try to win and move on because look what happened last year. They were supposed to be a top 3 team in the East, in my opinion, going into last season, and then everything just crumbled for them. So I don't know. Another team that maybe we could talk about more. I think this is let's talk about one of the 2 teams that we mentioned a lot in depth in terms of injuries. Talk about Boston. Obviously, Tatum gets injured during the series against the Knicks. He's going to miss a portion of the season. They're hopeful that he could return at the end of the year come playoff time. So that would be big if they can get him for the playoffs. And the biggest story for Boston was what they had to do in terms of getting rid of the cap issues they had going in the offseason. They had to get rid of Drew Holiday, as you mentioned. They had to get rid of Al Horford. They lost Luke Cornett. They lost Porzingis to a trade. They traded Gorgas Niang in a trade. The only additions they made in the offseason were getting Anthony Simons in that deal with Drew Holiday. They got Luca Garza and Chris Boucher. That was really the only big of note deals that Boston made. They couldn't resign
Boston
anyone
is pushing
back.
for the 6th seed.
So
That's what they're
yeah,
really.
they're fighting for. I think we both agreed they still are a playoff team, but they're not where they obviously were
No,
last season. There's just no
no.
chance.
It's they're going to go as far as Jalen Brown can carry them. He won
Right.
Finals MVP. Now it's time to put up or shut up. If he could carry them to a top 4 seed, I'll eat my words. But it's going to be on the back of Jalen Brown.
And the same thing goes for Indiana because now look, talk about Indiana in its terms of things. They also lost their star player Tyrese Halliburton when he got injured. He was injured before the finals. Then he got fully injured during the finals, and including that last game. And the biggest moves they made in the offseason, they brought back James Wiseman and Isaiah Jackson. But I feel like their departures were very, very big because they lose Thomas Bryant, who had some spark during the playoffs, and the biggest departure was losing Miles Turner to the Milwaukee Bucks. So
Yeah,
I'm wondering where
Thomas
they're going to be
Bryant is
going
the
in the year.
reason the Indiana Pacers are made the finals. By the way, a guy that's like 22% lifetime 3-point shooter and less than 1 attempt per game went Steph Curry and hit I think either 3 or 4 threes in that game close that game versus the Knicks.
And I'm sure you
Oh,
didn't see the thing with Cam Jones today.
I did not.
Yeah, let's just say he might have got arrested.
Well, I mean, I would say if this is David Stern's NBA, he's probably done for a cup for
I don't
probably
remember what
30
the
games,
exact
but
reasoning was. It wasn't anything like crazy. It was just he just got arrested from fleeing from the scene or something. I don't remember what it was though. I'll double check what it was. But I think right now you're looking at this team and you're wondering who's going to be that guy that is going to be the reason that they potentially sneak into the playoffs. Is it Nemhard? Is it going to be Benedict Matherin, who I think is going to be, I think, and personally, is going to be the reason that they make the playoffs if they do make it. That's just my opinion. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I can get behind that statement.
All right, so I'm looking at it now. He
I
was
think they're going to
arrested
make the
after
playoffs no matter
leading.
what. Or maybe not.
He just literally led the police on a brief chase. So that was there was nothing to the story.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out in the next couple days before I can comment on
Yeah,
that.
they asked him to pull over for erratic driving, and then he just kept going. So he got pulled over. He got
Yeah, it's not great.
no, because he was a guy that we really hated watching when he was at Marquette last year.
Yep.
So yeah. But talking about the new team that Miles Turner goes to, how about Milwaukee Johnson? Let's talk about them. And they had a lengthy offseason. Damian Lillard gone, Brooke Lopez gone. They traded Pat Connaughton as well. They made a lot of additions in terms of getting guys like Cole Anthony, Amir Coffey, Gary Harris, and of course Miles Turner. And I think right now, despite all that, the biggest news with them is what is their status with Giannis at this point? Because
Giannis is a dead man walking. I think if
yeah,
not really, he's a dead man walking, but that organization's a dead man walking
yeah,
because
they're in
Miles
trouble.
Turner, the Miles Turner Giannis front court is not going to be enough to overcome a lot of other front courts of the Knicks. Uh, in the NBA, you have the Knicks front court, you're gonna have the Cavs front
And it
court.
seems like the
Uh,
team that he wants to go to the most is the Knicks right now.
yeah, he wants to go over, and Milwaukee is Giannis is about to have all the leverage in the world. If they are not a top 4 seed or top 5 seed come playoff time or come
Yeah, I agree
trade
with you.
deadline time, I can see him dealing him because you're going to risk now losing for nothing.
Right.
You're really going to risk losing an asset that could get you multiple young
The
players or
reason
multiple
that you
picks for
won a
no reason.
championship. I mean, a
It just goes
monster
to
reason.
show there are no lifers in the NBA today. The
No.
closest I think we'll have will be Steph Curry, and I think he'll be the last one.
I think another team I want to talk about before we go into like maybe like a group of teams is Detroit, who you mentioned earlier on too. I really like what the Pistons are building right now with their team. And, you know, in the offseason, they lose guys like Dennis Schroeder and Tim Hardaway, who were nice assets for their bench. But I did like what they brought in guys like Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson and Javante Green. I think those are really good bench additions to a team that looks on paper to be a very solid team going into the upcoming season. A team that, quite frankly, gave the Knicks a run for their money in the postseason time. And they were making us, you know, sweat it out a little bit in that series, Johnson. But they look to be a really good up and coming team that I'm going to make a bold pick prediction later on. I'm just going to pick a spoiler. It's about this team.
All right, and I don't really have much to talk about in the other Eastern Conference teams. I mean, we can kind of briefly go over
I think
the
other
rest
than
of them
that,
here.
Wizards, Hornets, Nets, they're just
You're
dumpster
existing,
fires
guys.
right now. Yeah, they're
You're
just
existing.
existing.
You're in there.
I think it comes down to the last team in the East right now. I think we talk about. I forgot to talk about Atlanta. I guess we'll talk about them real quick before we go into that category because they had a lengthy offseason too. They bring in Porzingis in that 3-team trade. Luke Kennard they signed. They got Nickel, Alexander Walker. They did lose a bunch of players in the offseason. Larry Nance, Terrence Mann, Karis LeVert, Clint Capella, just to name some guys. But I feel like they probably should make the playoffs just because of based off what they have. You know, you have Trae Young, who right now is in contract, negotiations with the team, so we don't know what his status is. Zachary Richardshire is a nice young player. Dyson Daniels just got paid earlier today. Jalen Johnson's been a nice young player, upcoming player as well for them. So like they have the players that are up and coming, and Yucca Kongwo also is there too. They're a weird team to me because I feel like they probably should make the playoffs this season, but they could be in the same situation as Milwaukee, where if they're not a certain seed and Trae Young really wants out, then they're pretty much in trouble.
Yeah, you said it best there. Trae Young really is the team.
Yeah.
Um, what he says is going to kind of go.
And
I
then
don't really have much to add.
and then those other three teams that I mentioned, I feel like the last seed in the East is pretty much down to Miami, Toronto, and Chicago at this point. Chicago's up and coming. I'm starting to like their young core, but it's still a wait and see with them. Same thing goes with Toronto. I did like them adding Brandon Ingram during the deadline last season, so to help maybe out for this season. So I'm curious if that will help out. And then Miami, they're still trying to get back, from trading away Jimmy Butler. They bring in Davion Mitchell and Norman Powell, so I think that's some nice two additions to their to potentially starting lineup slash bench. But yeah, I'm curious, John, to see where you have these teams in the Eastern Conference. So let's break down the teams that we've agreed on so far. We have the Knicks and the Cavs we agreed on.
Yep.
I'm assuming Orlando as well.
Yep.
Boston, Philadelphia. I'm assuming also.
Yep. Unfortunately.
Okay, I have Milwaukee,
Yep.
Detroit.
Yep.
Did I say Indiana?
I don't believe
I don't
you
remember.
did.
I'm already losing my mind. I think if not Indiana. Let's see. Did I say Hawks?
No, you did not.
Okay, I have the Hawks in there.
I do too.
Okay, and then my last team, I have the Heat.
Oh, the disagreements, Nick. We were doing so well. I have the Raptors.
Okay, I think it's the same thing for the West. It's a coin flip. I think it's a coin flip for those teams.
So well.
I
the
think
Raptors.
the only reason I gave the edge to Miami is because they have a little bit more veteran.
Spo.
Yeah, and exactly. Yeah, Spo also kind of helps too. I feel like Spo does so much for that team, even though they're not like looking great. He's still one of the best coaches in the NBA, and now he's the coach of the USA team. So
yeah, I mean that's very well deserved for him. He's a great head coach, and I think Team USA would be better with him than the previous. I'm not going to talk about the previous. So
I would say for the most part, a lot of agreements in terms of playoff teams. I think last year we had a little bit of differences, but last year I did a pretty good job of picking the playoff teams for both conferences. I'm looking at it now. I had in the Western Conference 7 out of 10 right. You had 8 out of 10 right, and then in the East you had 8 out of 10. I had 9 out of 10.
Okay, so we did a pretty decent job last year.
Yeah. So, with that being said, let's now go into our next part, which is who we think is going to win the NBA MVP. We could do it like we did last year if you want to give the MVP pick and then who you think are going to be the runner-ups, or you could just give an MVP pick. It's totally up to you.
I'm just going to give my MVP pick, and that's going to be Luka Doncic. I think he's in a large market now where he's going to get some attention, and that's great for him. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. And that's my MVP pick. The sleeper is going to be Jokic, and the only reason he wouldn't get it is because of the obvious. So
is that really a sleeper though?
Yeah, because I think Luka's the favorite right now.
Right now, SGA is.
No, it's not going to be him. So,
well, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be SGA either. I think this is a revenge tour for Jokic after not winning it last season. So I have Jokic winning it.
There you have it.
If I had to pick a sleeper, give me Wemby. I've been waiting for the Wemby MVP train for a while. I think this is finally. I'm hoping this is finally the year that it can happen.
It may very well may be.
What about the NBA Finals? Let's get down to the nitty gritty. What do we think is going to be the finals this year?
Oh man, do I really have to pick the finals?
Do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
I got Thunder and Knicks.
I have a complete opposite. I have Rockets, Cavs.
Okay, so you know what? It's not the worst. I felt so good going to last postseason because the last 4 teams were T-Wolves, OKC, Knicks, Pacers, and I had Knicks, T-Wolves as my finals. I was thinking, oh my goodness, I'm actually going to get this right. And then I got the complete opposite of it. You at least had OKC in there. But Boston...
Yeah, I mean, that was just the painfully obvious one. They were so much better than everyone else last year. I mean, they had the best bench. They had the best starting 5. They had the best everything. So it wasn't really that much of a victory.
I'm with you. Here. I really do think, though, despite us not having the same pick in terms of teams and who we have in the final, I think it's going to come down to these 4 teams. I think it's Rockets.
I think so too.
Thunder in the West, Knicks, Cavs in the East. I think it's those 4 teams. I'm with you on that. And then,
I totally agree.
Who do you think wins the championship?
Give me Rockets. I don't think the Cavs have it. I think the Rockets are just redefining the way you play basketball. It used to be the 3-point shot, but now it's going to be in small ball for the Golden State Warriors. Now it's going to have a bunch of 7-foot-tall demigods that can dribble, shoot, pass. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I'll go back to back with the Thunder, and the only reason I'm doing that is to not mush the Knicks because I did that last season. So I'll go with the Thunder, go back to back. And then we'll end it, Johnson, with this. let's go with our bold take for the season. Now, I don't think you or I have had a bold pick even close the last 2 years. I'm gonna look real quick. Okay, so 2 years ago, our bold picks were you had Wemby to make the All Star game. I
I was
think he
close
got
with
hurt.
that. I
Yeah, I
was
think
very
he got
close with
hurt.
that.
That was the only reason he didn't I it. I mushed Scoot Henderson to beyond all belief. I had him to win the Rookie of the Year as an upset, so that obviously didn't happen. Last year, our bold takes were you had JJ Reg being fired by the end of the season. That obviously did not happen.
Nope.
And I had the Clippers as being a team that was going to be in the lottery. I wish it was the Sixers because my take on that was because of injuries. If I had said the Sixers, I would have looked like a genius, but I had the other team that had injury concerns, and it was in the Western Conference. So, what about this season? What's your bold take for the year?
In the middle of a playoff push, Kawhi Leonard and or members of the Clippers are going to be punished for
Oh
Kawhi's
no!
contract situation
For the what is it? The tree thing
for the
that's
tree
going on?
scandal. Kawhi loves trees.
Yeah, that's like one of the weirdest scandals I've ever heard of. But yeah, that would be crazy. They did that during the playoffs.
If it was David Stern, he'd 100% do it.
Yeah.
But Adam Silver does not really kind of care about the league. If he cared, he would have had it done already beginning of the year. But he's going to be
Are you
kind of
saying David
incompetent and
Stern would
lazy.
have not suspended him until after the playoffs,
He would
or
have done. He would have done it already.
oh, you would have already had it done? Okay, I see what you're saying.
But as Adam Silver puts it, the NBA is a highlight league, and it's not important for fans to watch the games or just watch clips and get headlines. So he doesn't really care about the actual integrity of the game or what this would actually kind of impact over the course of the year. But hey, what do I know?
What do you know? I kind of spoiled it earlier, but my bold take is I have the Detroit Pistons being a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference this year.
Yeah, I can totally see it. I don't think that's far fetched.
I love what they're doing. As I mentioned earlier on, I really think Kate Cunningham. If I had to redo my sleeper pick from earlier for MVP, I think he's a long shot to win MVP, but he'd be kind of an enticing pick because I really think he could be that type of player for this Pistons team this year. So I have Pistons being a top 3 seed, and as you mentioned earlier on, they could be a sneaky team in the Eastern Conference. That if it's not the Knicks or the Cavs, it could be them maybe making it to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, absolutely. They're right there.
They're right there. So that's going to be my bold prediction for the upcoming season. But other than that, Johnson, that pretty much does it for our show here tonight. Any final thoughts you have before our season opener tomorrow night, and then anything you have on the potentially for the Knicks that you haven't talked about already?
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to say is I'm looking forward to this season. The NFL has been very underwhelming to me. I'm
Your
looking
Patriots
forward
look
to.
good at least.
Yeah, I mean that is true. Patriots do look good. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watching as much League Pass as I can. In years previous, I would watch as much League Pass as I possibly can.
Mm.
I get it with my Knicks season tickets. I enjoy it. I can watch every team in the league. If there's nothing I'm watching like currently, I'll throw on a random game. I don't care who it is. Obviously, if I'm in, obviously I'll catch every Knicks game I could watch. Right. So if there's 82 games, I'll probably watch 70 of them. This
Well,
being really conservative.
here's how I look at
Um,
it like this. Even if you're not happy with the NFL season, basketball's back for one of two things. This, of course, the NBA, but that means also the college basketball's on the horizon too.
Absolutely. You took the words out of my mouth. And I'm looking to see not only that college is going to be back, but I'm looking forward to see how these former top picks are going to do because I always like rooting for the Big East guys. I don't like rooting for them in the current conference. I like rooting for the Big East guys 2 times a year
I'm
during the entirety of
assuming,
the NBA season as long as they're not opposing the Knicks. So, like, that's cool. Like Julian
yeah.
Champagny, I'm going to cheer for you 80 times this season. And if it's, 80 times, that's it because I won't cheer for you any times more than playing against the Knicks in the regular season or even the postseason.
Yeah.
So you get a max of 80 games. And in general, let's say it's someone like a Villanova player. Let's say it's Dante DiVincenzo. He gets it all
Tyler
the time.
Kolek.
Yeah, Tyler Kolek, sure. That's great. He's going to be on the Knicks by default. But yeah, I'll cheer for the guys when they're in the NBA, not playing the Knicks, and when they're playing non-conference teams during the regular college basketball season. Any other time, they can go to hell. But
Okay, let's put it lightly. Yeah, Julian Champagny, a proud new member of my fantasy basketball team. So hopefully he does something this season.
Yeah, I was looking at that pick, and I'm mad that you stole him from me. I'm sitting there with Russ, and like all of a sudden you took him.
I thought you had the pick before me though, didn't you?
I was hoping he was going to sneak around.
It was the last round.
No, was it?
It was. He was my last pick.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm thinking of another play because you did that a couple times to me.
Oh,
I
did
think
I?
I had the maximum amount of forwards. That's why.
I'm curious what the list was. I'll ask off air,
Yeah.
but I'm curious what your list was of
Yeah.
players. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this NBA season. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night because Johnson also, I thought, kind of didn't really mention it, but tomorrow night they're going to be making the return to NBC as well. We haven't seen that in a while. So NBA back on NBC. Looking forward to see how that presentation is going to be for the upcoming year. It's going to be on NBC. Amazon Prime's now got it as well. So a lot of new different ways you could watch the NBA for this year. If you don't have NBA TV, you could now, or League Pass, I should say, you can now watch it on different other streaming devices. So they're trying to expand watching this game. I think that's the best thing they've done, at least. At least they're
Yeah,
trying
I
to make
mean,
people
it's
watch it.
yeah, I
More than
hear
one
what you're
way.
saying. Like, it's great, whatever, yada
That's
yada.
the only thing I'm giving them compliments for. It's nothing else. It's just that.
Sure, we can go with that.
Yeah, we can go with that. But yeah, look. Hopefully, our Knicks at least make us happy. Another good season, and maybe they could go further than they did last year. Well, let's
Yeah.
fingers crossed for that.
All I'm gonna
But
say is with all this kind of stuff because it's pissing me off of the Big East still. I hate that I have to have like 18,000 subscriptions and plus cable to watch all this stuff. Like they gotta consolidate it.
yeah, I know.
I know it's like, oh, make it accessible, but like, listen, I have cable. Many people do not have cable now. There's a lot of cord cutters. I have cable simply because with my Spectrum package, they give me the streaming app. So they give me Peacock, they give me Paramount, they give me HBO, Hulu, whatever. Um, so I get it all. I know there's a lot of people that don't have access to it, and for you to actually watch the full NBA season, like if you could go like cut the cord, like it's very expensive. It's over $1,000. So
No.
they gotta do so. They gotta consolidate this media deal. But I never know they will never do it because of money. But I know there's supposed to be like final thoughts, but I give you 5 different things. So I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna let you take us home.
Okay. Well, like I think you and I could both at least end it off by saying, "Go New York, go New York, go." How about that? That good enough for you?
That's mighty fine.
More than fine enough. All right. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. The NBA now is just 25 hours away from tipping off its first regular season game with the Rockets and Thunder at 7:30, followed by Warriors and Lakers at 10 p.m. That's going to be the kickstart of the 2025-2026 NBA season, and we'll have to see how the season unfolds. Later on in the year, we will come back to recap the first half of the season while also previewing the NBA trade deadline. So make sure to tune on in for that episode. But for Nicholas Pavona and Andrew Johnson, this has been the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your week.